So if I was to start over and looking back, hindsight, where I'm at now, and if I could tell, like, I don't know, 23-year-old me on what to do to start real estate investing, there's a few things that I would say. Hola, I am Violeta, the first gen real estate investor. And if you're new here in this channel, we talk about real estate investing, personal finance, tips and tricks, and entrepreneurship. So if that interests you, definitely subscribe. So if I was back at 23 years old, and I heard about real estate investing and I wanted to get into it, the first step would definitely start learning about it. When I first heard about real estate investing, I didn't really take too much time to figure out what it was. Because the basic knowledge that I had was like you just rent out your house because that's what they told me, right? Now we have like podcasts and YouTube and a bunch of books on real estate investing. So I would start with that. You want to start your budget and figuring out where your money is going and figuring out where you are now and what you need to do to get there and see what you can afford to start setting aside. Start saving for a down payment and for the closing costs. You want to get the ball rolling because sometimes saving money can take time. Like, say you could only afford to set aside like $100 a month or $200 a month, whatever it may be. That may take some time. What kind of loans are out there? Figuring out if you're eligible, what you're eligible for, and if you're not eligible, like what can you do to fill those requirements? And this is a major step that you want to do early on so you can figure out where you're at. Sometimes what stops a lot of people at the beginning is that they don't want to face that truth. Like maybe you missed some payments, ran up your credit cards, and so your credit score is low. And it can be embarrassing and it can be, you might feel guilty and ashamed about it, but you really have to just put that mirror up and see where you are now so you can start taking the steps to fix it because you do not want to have the money saved up and you are ready to go and you're ready to go out there and buy and then realize that you have a lot of things that you need to fix first before you could actually like get your first home or property or whatever it may be. The other thing that kind of stops people from doing that is because they're afraid to get their credit pulled because yes, you have the hard inquiries and the soft inquiries. If you don't plan to buy like pretty soon, one pool is not going to affect you too much unless your credit's already jacked up anyways, then like you might as well go ahead and do it and then figure out what you can do and what's in it so that way you can figure out what to do to fix it. Or if you plan to buy within I think it's 3 months, they're going to see it as shopping around and they're not going to hold that against you as much as you would think. So don't let that stop you because a lot of people are get so afraid of like doing anything with their credit because they don't want to like make it worse. Like me, I'm always doing something with my credit and it goes up. I think it's dropped down at one point to 7, I think it was 710 or something like that, and it's gone up to like 790 or something like that. I think one point at 800. I don't even know. You do get once a year the ability to pull your credit report, my annual credit report.com or something. I'll have it linked down below. You get one time every year for free and you get your full credit report, and definitely go through it and see because I've done it, and I've noticed like when I sold my house like 2 years ago, apparently the electric bill wasn't paid and I was delinquent on that, and like I didn't notice. And it was because like a house from 2 years ago, that the new owners were supposed to, turn on the electric and put it under their name. They never did. So I didn't notice. I thought everything was fine. And then like 2 years later, it shows up in collections and they hit my credit report. Anyways, I fixed that. Things pop up and it might not be something that you did, or maybe something you forgot about. And you want to figure that out now and take the steps to fix that. The next step that I would take is, after, starting your budget, figuring out your credit, where you're at, and talking to the lender and figuring out what kind of loans you're eligible for. That's where you start creating your plan, how you want to start your real estate journey. If you're like a first-time home buyer, you have, access to like down payment assistance programs. Like here in California, there's like a lottery system, but there's also other ones out there that help with down payment. You also have access to like the first time home buyer loans, like the FHA loans. If you're a veteran or military, you have access to the VA home loans. Fannie Mae has the new one where you can get 5% down for conventional loans. Planning out and figuring out what it is that you're comfortable with and what your goals are. So, for example, if I was again back at 24, 23-year-old me, I purchased my first home and I ended up renting out one of the rooms, which ends up being a strategy where you house hack your property. But I fell on that. Now, in hindsight, I definitely would have tried to go for like something that is more of a duplex or a triplex or something like that, that I can house hack, where I can live on one side and rent out the other. And definitely would have started putting that money aside. That's where you have to start talking to your significant other and figuring out what you're willing to, what you're comfortable with dealing. Like, are you okay with dealing with a roommate situation? Are you okay with living in a duplex? What is it that you are okay with? Because then that's going to start to help figure out what kind of strategy you want to go for. Because in some cases you can still like buy your property, like especially here in California. There's a lot of like additional units where you can do like a granny flat or a mother-in-law suite, and rent that out. And so they're not living in the house with you, but they're still on your property, right? And you rent that out. And so people do that here, and it's actually one of the strategies that I may go for with my ultimate final property, my final dream home. Definitely start thinking about and figuring out what you're willing to do. Then you start looking to take action. So now that you have your plan, you go back to the lender and figure out like what it is that you need, like what kind of price range you're able to get, which they would have told you from the first time, because they would be like, well, you can afford this much or whatever, but you got to get your credit score down or whatever, right? So now you start creating the plan, and then you're going to have to start working the plan and working on continue saving up for the down payment and closing costs and stuff like that, what it is that you're going to go for, and then start looking for that property and start figuring out what area you want to target. Is it going to be local? Is it going to be out of state? That's something that y'all have to talk about as well, like when you're discussing. And then from there start branching out. So those are the things that you have to start thinking about off the bat once you get to this step. Finally, it's not the last step, but this is like basically kind of like the somewhat final step for starting your investment journey is that you want to figure out where you're going to go from there. You're going to go buy your first property. What is it that you're going to do with it? You kind of picked out your strategy. Now you're going to have to start working out, the plan and start taking action. But then you have to figure out what then. Are you going to just live in it forever and then save up and start investing on other properties? Or are you going to do like how I did and then live in it for a few years and then move, rent that place out, and then do it again? That's where you start figuring out how you're going to grow. And that's going to be like another big step that you have to sit down and figure out what your goals are. Like, are you just trying to invest for a little bit of investment property so you could get some cash flow, or do you want to go big and build a big portfolio? And that's really up to you to sit down and figure out what you want to do with that. Just take these steps and really take your time doing these steps, because the last thing you want to do is jump right into it, because I did, and I stumbled along the way. I made lots of mistakes, and some of them still kicked my ass last year and stuff, things that I had to learn. I didn't know what I was doing at the beginning, and I just kind of winged it. That's why you want to ensure that off the bat you just set yourself up for success. But there's a lot of books, there's podcasts, like this one, and YouTube and all that stuff. So definitely educate yourself, research and all that. Don't be like me and just jump into it and wing it. Start planning, like set yourself up, like do the pre-planning phase, and then start taking action, and then figure out where to go from there. Hopefully these tips were helpful. But other than that, that's it for this video. I will see you on the next one. Bye.